as the BBC Science correspondent Sue Nelson reports.
Smart 1 holds the key to Europe's future in space. An unmanned spacecraft destined for the Moon in 2001, its engine could revolutionize space travel. Planned by ESA, the European Space Agency, the mission should embrace the new culture of cooperation that has characterized space since the end of the Cold War. But instead, political wrestling has hijacked this mission. For Smart 1, ESA has chosen an engine proposed by France, an engine many scientists believe is less efficient and less suitable than a British version.
Here we have a clear case where there's a clear technical advantage in using one system, but the other system has been chosen just for political reasons. So in my way of thinking, that is absolutely crazy, a crazy way of doing these types of decisions.
Britain is no stranger to being left on the launch pad. In the 1960s, Blue Streak was at the cutting edge of rocket technology. But after 11 successful test flights and £600 million, Tony Benn, the then Minister for Technology, cancelled the programme. The Indian government bought some of the hardware and later launched a satellite using its own rocket, something Britain still can't do. It was removed from an industry which others went on to exploit.
When Blue Streak was cancelled as a British national project, the technology was passed over to become the foundation of the Ariane rocket series. Effectively, Britain opted out of rocket-making technology as such. It began to concentrate on some of the higher technology parts, engines, guidance systems, indestructible software, and so on. But making rockets became a French activity, what they like to call a European activity in France.
Britain now excels at making scientific instruments, used by telescopes across the world and on international space missions. But providing the hardware doesn't usually grab the headlines.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery with a crew of 6 astronaut heroes and 1 American legend.
When John Glenn returned to space after 36 years, his voyage not only inspired a nation, but inspired envy in others. If Clinton had a space hero, Blair wanted one too. National pride, after all, wins votes. When Downing Street examined putting a British astronaut on board the International Space Station, it discovered a possible trade-off. Britain is a world leader in one of space's most promising new technologies, ion engines. This ion propulsion engine was developed here at DERA, the Defence Evaluation Research Agency in Hampshire. There were high hopes that this would be chosen for the European Space Agency's Smart 1 mission. It was widely considered the most suitable engine for that type of mission, yet a French, less efficient version won the bid. Unlike conventional engines, an ion engine uses xenon gas. The gas is bombarded with electrons to give its atoms an electrical charge, a process known as ionization. These ions are then accelerated by high-voltage grids and expelled as an ion beam at more than 60,000 miles per hour, 10 times faster than by the chemical propellants normally used. It's here at this ESA research centre in Noordwijk on the Netherlands coast that work on Smart 1 is coordinated across Europe. The French ion engine, which will be tested in a smaller version of this vacuum chamber, is similar to the British one, but there's one crucial difference. It uses twice the amount of fuel, leaving less space for scientific experiments, something even ESA is prepared to admit.
By using a thruster, you consume fuel, and the little fuel you consume, the better it is for your mission, because you can carry other things in place of fuel, in place of propellant. The British thrusters, for the same change of velocity that gives to the spacecraft, consumes indeed less than the French one. But this is not the old story, because it consumes more or less twice as much in power for the same thrust. So it requires more electrical power than the French one.
But the extra power can be provided by the solar panels. The Americans may have been the first to walk on the moon, but when it comes to iron engine technology, both Britain and Germany are up there with the United States. NASA recently tested an American iron engine on Deep Space One as the spacecraft's main driving force. It was a success. This success offered another seal of approval. Deep Space One contains an iron engine just like the British one proposed for Smart One. So why is ESA so keen to use the French engine? The Director of Science insists they've made the right choice. He says the French engine is based on Russian technology and has the advantage of being used to correct the position of satellites for years. But Smart One will travel to the moon, a different use for the engine. And there's also the question of how much money France is contributing.
Under normal circumstances, then the UK contribution, I say, is around about 14%, varies between 12 and 14%. And the French contribution, for instance, is double that. But in this case, we have a special condition. This, in fact, has meant that for SMART, we have the possibility of getting something like 23 million of compensation money as part of the budget for SMART. Now that money, the majority of it comes from France, in fact about 20 million from France and 3 million from the UK.
And some say this disparity tipped the balance.
Sometimes I do get the feeling that in Britain we play cricket in our relationships with the European Space Agency, and some other nations tend to go in for all in wrestling. I have to say also that the French side made it quite clear that they wouldn't participate in Smart One unless their engine was selected. So from a British perspective, the competition was perhaps rigged at the outset for the French engine to win.
The choice of engine on Smart One is crucial for further deep space missions, yet ESA has put politics over technical advantage. Britain feels so strongly about the decision, it's threatening to withdraw its contribution. Evidently, it will take more than science to prevent French domination of Europe's future in space.
Sue Nelson, just tomorrow morning's front pages.